Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to talk about a powerful tool, Solid Edge Cam Pro. For an agenda, we're going to have a very brief introduction into the company that I work for, Geometric Solutions. We'll talk about some industry trends that we're seeing throughout CAM. Then we'll talk about reasons why you should consider adopting Solid Edge Cam Pro. And then lastly, we'll talk about why Siemens. You'll notice we have this GoToWebinar Dialog Box. If you have any questions, please ask them at any time, and I'll do my best to answer them. We also have a really nice handout that goes into further depth on Solid Edge Cam Pro. My name is Dan Turk, and I'm an application engineer with Geometric Solutions. The very first CNC project that I worked on was years ago, and we were working after hours, and they had an empty CNC station, so we thought maybe we should make an electric guitar. Well, that's what we did, but it's all been downhill from there, believe me. The company I work for, Geometric Solutions, we're part of the larger Waltonen family of companies. And what that means is we have Waltonen Engineering, where there's hundreds of designers and engineers. They're using the Siemens software that Geometric Solutions sells. Then at Independence Tooling Solutions, we have a number of CNC machines, a manufacturing facility. So the very things that we're building and designing, we're actually able to make. So you could say top to bottom, front to back, and every which way between, we've got you covered. The owner of our company, he put it nicely. He said, our ability to successfully partner with our customers comes from our experience in using the tools we sell every day. So let's look at our agenda again. We're going to first talk about industry trends. Now, some of the things that I want to point out here, what we're going to look at, this was a study or an analysis that was done by SimData in 2020. So this is not Geometric Solutions, and it's not Siemens. So what are some of the things that came of this? Well, the biggest thing is Industry 4.0. You can see some other names that are listed. There's eFactory, intelligent machining, or the one that I like the best is digital twin. Because digital twin is really what that is. It's all about making a virtual world to exactly match what's happening in the real world. That way we can be very confident and assured in our processes before we go into production. So if you look at this video right here, we're using CAM software to validate and verify the machining process before it actually goes to the machining center. The advantages of that are pretty obvious. No collisions, no crashes, no cutting air. You'll be able to make sure that it's going to work the first time, every time. Another trend that SimData pointed out was more sophisticated CAM. Now there's some reasons for this. Partially, you can have more sophisticated CAM because we have better technology. But more so, it's that our designs are becoming more complex. Now in this video, you can see that we're using a crisscross zigzag pattern. So basically, you cross it and then rotate 90 degrees and do it again. The shape on the left, it's simple, it works well for that. But there is more sophisticated parts, like the one on the right, where a zigzag pattern might not work so well. We'll get into this a little bit more in a little bit here. Another trend is high-speed machining toolpath technology. Now, this actually hit the market about 15 years ago, so it's not new. And just about every vendor, they have some form of high-speed machining toolpath technology. Now, Solid Edge Cam Pro, we've got a great solution. And we'll spend some time later talking about why we think that the Siemens solution has a leg up on the competitors. Another industry trend is CAM consolidation. You can see some headlines on the screen. Large companies, they're going out and they're purchasing CAM vendors. Now, I'm not saying this is bad. Siemens, they purchased Unigraphics, which is where Solid Edge CAM Pro is from. They purchased that many years ago, and it has been great for the company. So it's not that we're saying it's a bad thing, but it is one of the trends in the industry. Another trend is cloud-based CAX. So that's computer-aided X. Design, manufacturing, engineering. We've got all of these powerful machines, these powerful computers, and what's happening is we're actually starting to use them to their full capabilities. Another trend that we're seeing is SaaS, which is software as a service. So some folks, they would rather, instead of running their CAM software or their design software on their own computer, they would rather run it on a server. See, customers are now, they're being given the choice, do you want to pay for a subscription or do you want to buy the software outright? The nice thing about Siemens is we give you both options, although some of our competitors are not able to offer that. Another trend by SimData was the growing of CNC simulation. Now, everybody on this call knows CNC, computer numerical control. It's one of the aspects of the digital industry, of the digital twin rather. Now this video, it's a G-code based simulation. The post-processor, it's created the G-code. The virtual machine is verifying the code as it runs on the virtual machine. This way we can have a lot of confidence when it actually hits the shop floor. When we run this particular program, we'll know that the results we get in real life, they should be the same that we get in the virtual world. Let's next talk about reasons why you might want to consider Solid Edge CAM Pro. Now there's 5 reasons and a bonus. So the 5 reasons are adaptive roughing, model associativity, intelligent toolpaths, something we like to call Follow Me IPW, which is Follow Me In-Process Workpiece, Post Hub, and then there's a bonus. Now Post Hub, it's new, it's cutting edge. I think you're going to like it. So let's talk about adaptive roughing. Now what if I told you that you could CNC parts much faster and your cutting tools would last longer and you could do it at no additional cost? So it's faster, it's better, cheaper. Now what are you thinking? Okay, this is crazy or it's either cliche. But actually, adaptive roughing, it does all 3. Let's see an example of this. You've seen this slide before, but here we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about this HSM, or high-speed machine toolpath technology. Now it's interesting, if you wanted to, you could actually take and Google the evolution of toolpath design and you'd get more information. So what's going on here with the HSM? Now at Siemens we call it adaptive roughing. Other companies, they call it something else. Basically what it is you're ensuring that the tool, it never gets buried in the cut. Now this was a problem in years past where all we had, the only option, was to just do offset toolpaths. But think about it. If you don't bury the tool in the cut, that means you can run it at the fastest program speed. But take it a step further. You can run it at the fastest program speed and you can use the entire length of the cutting tool. You can use the entire flute. So this is going to help you immensely on your speed, keeping your tools, and so on. Now you might look at the geometry on the right side, and that's the path, and you might say that looks like a longer path than what we might need. You're right, it is a longer path. But here's the interesting thing. Because you can run so much faster, and you can use the entire length of your tool, it ends up being a much quicker operation. So it's a win-win solution. Let's next talk about pillar cutting technology. Now this is market leading. A lot of our competitors, they just simply don't have anything like this. Now the video on the left, it actually demonstrates what it looks like when you don't have pillar cutting technology. So we've got our end mill, it's coming in, and it tries to take the pillars and just shrink them down. So it cuts around and around and around. Done. Easy, right? But what happens actually in the real world? Bang! Did you see that? We're going to do a slow-mo replay. Now really watch. When it gets towards the end, there's so much pressure on it that last piece of the pillar, it actually becomes a projectile. It gets shot into the air. That's bad for a number of reasons, right? Safety, not the least of which. But even for the tool itself, now that cutting tool, the edges are not going to be as sharp. In fact, it could even be that they've broken off. What's the rest of this part going to look like? Siemens offers the ability to use this pillar cutting technology, so you can turn it on or off. Now let's actually see what it looks like. So we're going to look at the video on the right. So the same kind of thing. It's cutting around the part till it gets to a small level. And then it does these helical cuts from top to bottom. So cuts around the part and helical cuts. Now let's see what it looks like in real life. So there we go, we're cutting around. And then we start to do these helical cuts from top to bottom, taking it down. Now this method, it will take slightly longer to machine, but it is much safer and it's more productive. You don't have to worry about breaking the cutting tool. You don't have to worry about that pillar snapping off. This is one of the big advantages that we have with Solid Edge Cam Pro. Again, it's something that our competitors really lack in. Another advantage that we have is what we like to call bottom-up machining. So when you're roughing out a part, if you look at the screen, you can see the difference when it's off and when it's on. So when it's off, we get these large chunks of stock that's left. When we turn it on, there's actually a lot less material, and you can even see that it's a little bit more, not a little bit, it's a lot more uniform. Now let's watch the video on the right, and we're going to get to see a visual example. So it takes the full path at the allowable depth of the cut for this tool. And then we step up, so it's the bottom up, and take away any extra material that's left. What this is doing is it's giving us a uniform amount of material that's left over. So that way, when we're going to do our semi-finishing or our finishing operations, it is going to be a much better operation. So using this, we get the best of both worlds. You get to take off as much material as possible, and then at the same time, you get to leave a uniform amount of material for the next set of operations. Once again, another win-win solution. Solid Edge Cam Pro. We've talked quite a bit about adaptive roughing. So far, adaptive roughing, it's available with our 3 axes package at no extra charge. So that's a bonus. It's like a little gift that we're giving. And this is world-class technology. Once you buy a 3-axis package, you also have it in the 2.5 prismatic package. So you get better results, quicker time, better, faster, cheaper, and it's not cliche. The next thing we're going to talk about is model associativity. Now for me, this is my favorite thing because I can be a little bit lazy at times. So just think about it. You program your part, you have everything done, and you get another part that's close. It's similar. Not exactly the same, but it's similar. You got to start from scratch. Well, not if you have Solid Edge Cam Pro. Let's see what I mean. So here we have an example model. Completely machined. It's a mold model. And you can see all the operations that we have on the left as we click through them. Now there are some finished operations as well. What we did though that was really smart was we made the geometry objects that would hold certain types of faces depending on the type of machining operation. So each one of these objects, it's just containing one face. The second smart thing that we did is we used a really powerful tool called the Wave Geometry Linker. Fancy name, but think about it like a piece of clay. So you know, when you were a kid and you would mold that clay, it molds to any shape that you have. We want to bring in this second part and we want to use it like a piece of clay. So we bring it in and we're just going to move it into position. Now notice we're not being very precise. We're just going to get it close to the same orientation. And that looks good. So once we've done that, we're going to go back into our Wave Geometry Linker, back into our clay, and we're going to have it attached to the new part as opposed to the old one. So we're modifying the clay, so to speak. You'll notice now we have all of these different parts, but they need to be reassociated. One click, switch to tangent faces, and watch this. Bam, it picks everything. We've got some really good selection tools that are here. What we would do is just go through every one of these operations, do the same kind of thing, which that can be kind of boring, so we're not going to bore you with that. Once we have all of the operations and they're associated to that new part, that clay as it were has been modified, then all we really need to do is generate the operations. So let's generate that toolpath. That's looking good. If you think about it, in just a matter of minutes, we've done what could have taken 2, maybe 3 hours of machining time. That's what we like to call smart machining, reusing the intelligence that you've already built into the model. Let's verify our toolpath. And we don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Something else Solid Edge Cam Pro does well is rest milling. You can see it's pretty smart on knowing where to cut, where not to cut, where is stock left, and so on. We don't want to waste time cutting air. So we're simply going through the job as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Now that was a more complex part. What if you have something simple? Just a simple little part. Does Solid Edge Cam Pro work well for that? Well, of course. So here we have this very simple model. You can see it's got some tool paths on it. So notice there's a floor wall, and that's the one we're going to want to focus on the most. So this toolpath, it's going around that plus shape in the middle of the part. Well, we're ready, but then we get a call from the design engineer and he says there's got to be a change. Well, that could be difficult to make a change with all the work we've already done. But it's not difficult at all with Solid Edge CAM Pro. So we're going to switch over to Solid Edge CAD, and we're going to incorporate the model change. Now, one of the cool things about Solid Edge is we have this powerful tool called synchronous technology. So you can click on one face and drag it, but notice to the right there's that design intent. So it realizes that these parts are symmetric, and so it adjusts accordingly. So we just move it by 10, and that's looking good. The next thing that we're going to want to do is just send this back over to Solid Edge CAM Pro. And of course, we want to hit save on this. We're back in CAM Pro, and look at the part is already updated. You'll notice though that the tool paths, they're no longer in sync. That makes sense though, the part has changed. That's what those little no symbols are telling us. Well, how do we change this? Well, it's pretty cool. We just click Generate Toolpath. Accept the paths. And now you can see that floor wall, that operation, it's up to date with the new geometry. Couldn't have been any easier. Now we talked about this a little bit ago, but it was the intelligent tool paths. Now, as I mentioned, in some situations, the cross-hatching, it works fine, but not in all situations, or even with all types of materials. Some materials like titanium doesn't like to be remachined. Now, some of our competitors, they will tout cross-hatching because that's the best that they've got. But let's see an example of how cross-hatching is limited on a more complex part, like the one on the right. Now, some CAM systems, as I mentioned, they recommend cross-hatching because that's all they can recommend. Now, just for the record, cross-hatching is you do a zigzag motion. So here's the zig, as it were. Rotate 90 degrees, zag up the other way. There's a problem, though, with cross-hatching, and that is, at the end, you can get a checkerboard pattern on your part. It works well on some spots, but when you get to a steep area, like we're seeing right here, you're basically machining up and down the geometry. That's not the best way to do it. It's better to do more like a waterline machining process in steep areas. Let's take a quick look at what our part is going to look like. This is going to run for about 40 seconds or so. So we're zigzagging in one direction, and we're going to come back, zigzag in the other direction, and complete. Now if we zoom in, what it's really doing is it's giving us kind of like a dimpled appearance, almost like a golf ball appearance. We might like golf, but that's not what we want on the surfaces of our machine, or what we want on our clubs. And as we said, depending on what type of material you're using, that might not be exactly what you need. So the question then is there a better way? Well, there is. And that's by using Solid Edge CAM Pro. With Solid Edge CAM Pro, we're actually going to combine the two different types of machining for steep and non-steep geometry. Now when we say steep geometry, we're talking about geometry that's close to being vertical or parallel to the tool axes. And of course, we're talking also about non-steep geometry. Is that geometry which is closer to being perpendicular to the tool axis. Now this is really intelligent, as you can see. For non-steep geometry, we have a nice offset pattern. And for steep geometry, we're doing that waterline type machining. Now let's see what the surface finish looks like on this. And this is going to run a bit too. So you'll notice we're not zigzagging, but just cutting where it needs to so we don't get that kind of crazy finish. And it's done. Much nicer, and it was faster. We didn't have to spend as much time getting the part machined. That's a more intelligent toolpath, and that's what Solid Edge Cam Pro can do for you. Another thing that we like to talk about in Solid Edge Cam Pro is the Follow Me IPW, or Follow Me In Process Workpiece. Basically, when you have a part like this, you've got two different vices, you're taking the part and flipping it. Well, the CAM processors, they're going to know how much stock is left. Let's see a brief example. So on this machine table, we've got two setups. So the first setup, G54. You can see it's going to work on the part. The second setup, G55. So it is when we take that part, we flip it over, and continue to machine it. So to show you the Follow Me IPW, we simply go into the geometry view. And then we can actually take a look at the workpiece. So we can see what it's going to look like at the specific moment when it's passed from op 54 to op 55. That's the Follow Me IPW. So you don't have to worry about having your CNC cut a bunch of air. A post hub is another advantage that we have, and it's a cloud-based technology. Now post hub, it actually gives you over 1,200 post processors that you can use, and almost all of them are free. Let's take a look though at how it works. So of course, no program is complete without the job being post-processed for the machine. So Solid Edge Cam Pro comes with Post Hub. It's an online database of over, as we said, 1,200 post-processors. And what's nice about this is you could just scroll on through the list, taking a look at different ones. Maybe it's a specific controller that you want to use. You can see there's a bunch of different ones. We'll use a Haas. What about the machine manufacturer? The number of axes, kinematic control, manufacturing technology. You could even search by inches or by metric. So once you find the post that you want to use, you can get some extra information about it. So it's just telling us everything that has to do with it. There's documentation that you can use. And then we simply download it. Now notice on the left, do we want to install this, or do we want to use it only in the current session? So we're going to say just in this session. And right there it is. OK. Now the post process is running. So that's going to take just a couple of seconds. And voila, there we go. The post is now done. So again, that's a really nice advantage with Solid Edge Cam Pro. Now here's the bonus. Some folks will say that Solid Edge Cam Pro, it's difficult to use. It's anything but that. There's all sorts of graphical helps that we can use. There's even a very powerful tool called view sectioning. Now let's see what we mean. So here we have our part, and this was the first option without bottom-up technology turned on. And we can actually run and put a section through our model. In this section, it can be oriented in any way that we would want. So you can kind of scroll through and see, look, there's a lot of material left in some of the actual other parts. But we're able to see that dynamically. All right, let's switch over though to the adaptive milling. So this is that bottom-up technology. We'll turn that on. Generate the tool path. And verify. So we're just going to hit play, and you've seen this before, but it's impressive to see it again. Okay, there we're done. And then we're going to go back into our section. Rotate that around, and look at that. A much more uniform amount of material left. Again, this is going to help us with the semi-finishing and finishing operations. Something else that Solid Edge Cam Pro does is it has graphical help just about everywhere. So just about anywhere you click, there'll be a graphic or even a video that's showing you how to do what you want to do. Or we could say what the toolpath is going to look like. The last thing we were going to talk about is why Siemens. Well, let's go back to SimData as well as JPR. Both of these companies, they have found that when it comes to CAD and when it comes to CAM, that Siemens is number one. Now that's a good thing. That means that all of the technology that we're seeing, these are new enhancements. So there's new enhancements each year, really with each release. But with those enhancements, because we're number one, we've got the money to funnel into more enhancements. So it's not an old and dying technology. No, it's leading and cutting edge. Number one, that's pretty good. Customers, they say a lot of good things about Siemens. But notice this one. I think it sums it up nicely. We chose the full Siemens package because we consider it strategic to invest not just in solutions, but in the companies behind them. I think that sums it up pretty nicely. Well, at this point, we're going to take a look at some questions that some folks are having. So the first question is, how does PostHub differ from your competitors? A lot of times what our competitors will do is they'll just give a USB drive or maybe shoot an email with a few of the posts that they have. But with the PostHub, you notice that there were over 1,200 different types. Now, something that's really amazing about that, if you were to take a look at the little download that we have, it actually is from 2021, but it shows, let me get to it, it shows that there are more than 1,100. So in the time that this was printed, an additional 100 posts, again, most of them are free, have been added. That is really impressive, isn't it? And since it's online, you can get it from anywhere. No need to wait for an email or no need to wait for a USB drive. Another question that we had is, what CAM packages are available with Solid Edge CAM Pro? And since I've got this little handout, and please make sure you download it, but you'll notice with Solid Edge CAM Pro, you get all of the choices. What do you need? We don't want you to buy more than you need, but we want you to get exactly what you want. So it could be we're talking about a 2.5 axis bundle, or perhaps a 3. You could get total machining, where you could do just about everything. But just to give you an idea, maybe you have a 3 axis and you want to just add some turning to that. Well, you're able to add any of those right to, there we go, right to your bundle. So again, it's a good value that you get what you need and what you want. Lastly, what if I wanted to trial the software? How does that work? Well, I'm going to pull up our next slide because this has an email address that you can use. If you'd like to get a trial of Solid Edge CAM Pro, then just email us at solutions@goplm.net. We'll have someone contact you and you can get a free 30-day trial of this software. And that way you'll be able to use it and prove that it does all the good things that we've talked about today. Well, at this time, I'd like to thank all of you for your time and for your attention. You'll notice we've got a little QR code. You can scan it to learn more about Geometric Solutions or to learn more about our upcoming webinars. And again, our email address, solutions@goplm.net. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day and stay safe.